everyone, hope you're doing well. Seb here. For those of you who don't know me, I make animal rights and veganism related content every single week, and today I want to talk about this concept, this question that's been going around of whether or not vegans are happier or meat eaters and non-vegans are happier. Now before we get into it, I want to ask you to please subscribe and hit the notification button to stay up to date with everything, and if you would like to get a free ebook about veganism and logical fallacies, how to speak about animal rights in an easier way during activism with your loved ones, with your friends, go ahead to my website and get your free ebook available in 20 languages. That being said, let's get to the subject. Now, I've been seeing this subject come up quite often during the past 4 or 5 years, and there's quite a few things that I want to address. The first one being the study that recently came out, let's say the most recent one that I'm aware of, that covers this topic. And that study is called Meat and Mental Health, a meta-analysis of meat consumption, depression, and anxiety. Now, this study's conclusion was that actually vegans are not happier, and not only that, they made a very strict conclusion in which they said, the purpose of the meta-analysis, our results show that meat abstention, vegetarianism, or veganism is clearly associated with poorer mental health, specifically higher levels of both depression and anxiety. Now, if you take this at face value, you would be worried, right? Like, why is this study saying this? Why did they conclude this? When we know that there are other studies that are actually saying the opposite. So we have to ask ourselves, what is specific about this study that we could look into? And one of the most important things that you should look into is the conflict of interest when it comes to the study. The people behind it, who were they paid by? And when it comes to the disclosure statement, we see the authors' names, everyone who worked on it, have previously received funding from the Beef Checkoff through the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. You cannot be more industry funded than this. And if you look into the funding in additional information, it says that this study was funded in part via an unrestricted research grant from the Beef Checkoff through the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. The sponsor of the study had no role in study design, data collection, data analysis, data interpretation, or writing the report. Now, we have to keep in mind that just because they weren't involved in preparing the method and everything doesn't mean that them giving the money didn't play a part, because we have to remember that when you're funding scientists, most of the time you expect them to do something specific. And if you sit down and decide, okay, I want to make a study that concludes this, you can find the scientists who would do that for you. A very, very clear example of this was when the egg industry funded a few studies, and what they did was they wanted to show that eating and consuming eggs doesn't really affect your cholesterol levels. And one thing we know in biology and science is that if you already have, let's say, more than average cholesterol level, if you eat more eggs or anything that has a lot of cholesterol, it will not go higher. There won't be any spike. So if you're not eating anything with cholesterol and then let's say every 3 or 4 weeks you eat eggs, there's gonna be a spike. So what they did for the study is they brought people who already have a high level and then they fed them more eggs, and they were like, oh look, there's no spike. Therefore, consuming eggs does not have an impact on the cholesterol levels in your body. And of course they want to do that because having a high cholesterol is not something healthy. And this is just an example of how industry funded research most of the time can give you the result that the industry was looking for in the first place. Now, let's put this subject aside and let's actually talk about the subject. Are vegans happier, or is it normal to not be happy if you're vegan? Well, I would say that in general you would feel better physically because of what you're putting in your body, you know, and at the end you are what you eat. And if you're eating things that are not good for your body, if you're eating things that are not good for your digestive system and your overall health in general, you are going to be feeling better. But we do know that a lot of animal rights activists, vegan activists, do suffer from anxiety and depression, and we definitely clash a lot more than other people. And I think that's because we have seen and experienced and witnessed so much that we let it out on each other. And sometimes we keep it to ourselves and we don't really seek therapy, we don't take breaks, we don't look after ourselves, and that can result in your mental health declining. And this is something that I believe is very normal. Of course, we're not going to be happier than the people who are living in ignorance, who don't know what's going on in these farms, who haven't been in slaughterhouse kill floor, who haven't been in farms with hundreds of thousands of chickens locked up in cages, suffering day after day, week after week, month after month, only to end up on trucks and then be taken to a slaughterhouse. Of course, you're going to be happier if you don't think about these things. things. And of course you're gonna be happier if you don't hear all the, sorry for the language, but bullshit excuses people give to not go vegan. You know, of course you're gonna be happier if when you show someone slaughterhouse footage, you don't hear them saying, oh, but plants have feelings, when you know very well they don't believe plants have feelings. They're just looking for stupid excuses to justify their exploitation and murder of other animals. Of course you're gonna be happier when you don't have to share all the information of what's going on just to be given this look and go like, oh, why are you pushing your views on me? Or just to be told, oh, but I love the taste of cheese, when you know that baby calves are taken away from their mothers and then their mothers are exploited for their milk and sent to a slaughterhouse. Of course you're gonna be happier if you don't have to stand outside slaughterhouses just to record what's happening to pigs and how they're taken inside gas chambers just to be killed and then be sold as humanely slaughtered, to end up showing that footage to your friends and loved ones and hear more excuses. So I think on one hand this study is complete bullshit, but I also think that even if it wasn't, even if this was not an industry funded study and it had the conclusion that it has, I think it's normal that vegans are not happier. But I won't say vegans, I would say activists, people who have experience and witness and go through the frustration that we go through almost on a daily basis when we're communicating with others. You know, everywhere you look you see injustice around you once you go vegan and become active. Every single place you go, when you see the leather seats, when you see people biting into their sandwiches, acting like what they're doing is completely fine, this is something that's going to eventually affect you because you are a human being who cares, who values life, who values morality and ethics. So that's what I want to talk about. You know, if you're not vegan, you might not understand why it's so difficult, you know, but if you go vegan, you would actually understand that if you respect life, once you make that connection and realize that yes, even though other animals are different to us, they're not really different in ways that have any moral weight, you know. Yeah, just because they look different or have a different way of living or different skin or fur or whatever doesn't really justify doing what we're doing to them. And once you have that change in your life and you start seeing them and valuing their life, it's gonna be difficult being in a society that is not vegan. Not only not vegan, but also very charged against vegans and veganism. And we know as a fact that the only group that is more discriminated against and has more hate than vegans are people who depend on drugs. That's how much vegans are hated. So yeah, I think it's very fair to, even if the study was not funded by the industry, to realize that yeah, vegans or vegan activists are not as happy. And what I want to ask you all, especially if you're a vegan or a vegan activist, is to take care of yourself. You know, find the few things that make you feel better, find the few things that make you feel more calm, makes your anxiety go away. You know, personally for me, ice baths work very well, but that's something very personal. It might not work for you, but you can give it a try. Always do seek professional help. I'm no professional here, but I do want to say that it's very important to take breaks. It's very important to take care of your mental health. Keep in mind, if you're an activist, that when it comes to activism, it's not a sprint. We're not going to be able to make the world go vegan and become anti-speciesist in a matter of weeks or even years. This is something that might very probably take decades. So it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and the animals need you long term. And for you to be doing this long term, you have to take care of yourself. So take care of yourself and your mental health for your sake, for the animal's sake, and for the movement's sake. That's all I want to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment and tell me how you feel about your mental health and what you do to feel better or when you take a break. Also, I have just put out a new episode on my podcast about an amazing application called A Billion. More information on that in the description below as well. You can be donating to sanctuaries without even donating with your money, which is an amazing concept, but you can find more information below. Also, remember to subscribe and hit the notification button if you would like to support my work, my online or offline activism. Please feel free to check out my website. I'd really appreciate all the support that I receive. I will see you in the next video. Thank you again for watching.